Welcome back to the Empower Podcast, where we sit down with builders, operators, and entrepreneurs who aren't just participating in the industries that are shaping them. And today's conversation is one I've been looking forward to because we're diving into something that every entrepreneur feels, but mostly don't fully understand. Why do businesses scale and others stay stuck? Why do some founders break through while others stay trapped in the day-to-day grind? We're talking about transition from operator to CEO. And joining me today is Laurie Brewer from Glow Up. Laurie, great to have you on the show.
It's great to be here. It only took a couple of weeks, a couple of reschedules, but I apologize for that. But I'm happy to be here now.
Hey, you broke your foot, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes, it's been rough. This has been like the weirdest month of my life, but now I'm back on track and all is good.
How did you break your foot?
I didn't break it. I tore something and it was in a running because I
Oh,
run
wow.
every day and I twisted it. So not necessarily a break, but more of a tear. And so I'm finally back to running, but not at the same level I was running before.
Okay. So I want to start here. Before you started Glow Up, before you started consulting, helping companies scale, helping them get organized, what were you seeing in the marketplace out there that said, "Hey, this is broken. I can come in and fix it."
Well, I think a lot of times, so coming out of corporate, which has been challenging, but a good thing, I realized that a lot of times with startup companies, they have a great product, they have a great vision, and they know where they want to go, but they don't know how to build the operational framework and the strategy to get to where they want to go. Depending on most of the startups that I work with are typically tech or fintech or telehealth, and they're mostly experts in that specific area. So I started to see where startups were failing to gain traction because they just weren't prepared with what I think are just foundational things, such as what's my ideal customer? What differentiates me? How do I get into the market? How do I get grants? How do I get investors? Like just this whole series of things. And so, how do I tell my story? And that became a bit of a gap that I noticed when I started to volunteer as a coach in the startup ecosystem. But then I realized it was really more of a business and something I was a lot more passionate about.
Interesting. So when you go into these companies, at what point do you get with them and go like, "Hey, this is the real problem right here." Like, how are you able to identify this? Came from corporate, maybe you saw it in your corporate world. I gotta believe that's gotta be the key thing, like identifying the key driver that's causing a problem.
Yeah. So usually I know it in the first conversation, to be honest with you. So I kind of go through just like a series of questions and I'm able to really understand one, where they are with their product. What is the product? How does the product, what's the service that they're providing? Is it SaaS? Is it an app? Is it both? I'm also able to really understand where they are in their launch. So a lot of times what is happening and what cannot be seen is that they don't realize that they have to understand who is the specific customer they are trying to service. What does the service provide? How does that service work for them? Work for the customer that they're servicing? And then what is that big differentiator that allows them to tell their story in a way that is compelling enough to get people to want to work with them? That's the key. So usually in the first hour, as soon as I get on the call and they give me their spiel, I will ask them right away, who's your ideal customer? And if there's 20 different answers and we think it's this or we believe it's that, then it's becomes an issue.
They're like all over the place, right? They're not like laser focused
No,
on.
no. And so if we start there, then we can go through like a series of questions that allows me to really narrow in on the ICP. Once we get the ICP, then I'm like, okay, let's talk about the wedge. Then the next question they have is, how do we scale? I'm like, well, you don't have revenue. So how about we gain traction first? And I think that's a big gap. A lot of times their traction is where they learn what's going to work for them. It's where they're testing products. It's where they're understanding operational friction points. onboarding issues? Are they measuring the right things? So I think traction is really the place where learning occurs.
Let me dive into that a little bit, the traction piece. Like people always come up with great ideas, right? These great like-minded people. What are the most successful ways to get traction? What do you have to do, like practically?
Practically, some of the things that we've talked about here, which is the ICP, understanding that and making sure that you are clear on who is the customer. Because if you don't know who your customer is, you don't know how to market, you don't know who to target, and you don't know how to tell your story. And so I think that's one of the first things that we talk about. The second thing is understanding the differentiators, like what makes you unique, why you at this time when there are competitors out there. So understanding that because that builds the marketing and sales strategy. And then the next piece of that is how are you pricing this and how are you going to how are you going to price it competitively in the market? How are you going to test it? How are you going to get early adopters? So I think there's a little bit of just building foundational, the logistics of your business, which are really important. And I think that's kind of the point where we really start to get into this place where they're like, we didn't think about that. We don't think about that. We're building the product. Well, that's great that you have a product, but if you don't have a business, you don't have a business.
Right. So they basically, these founders, these companies, they tend to overcomplicate things. To your point, they don't
Yeah.
have a business.
Well, and they oversimplify things that are critical to gaining traction, right? So they don't even know the basics of how do they onboard a customer. So you have a great product and you've created the SaaS platform, but what does your onboarding process look like? What is the operational workflow? And I think that's where it gets super complicated.
Yeah. So you'll go in there and you'll work on the workflow, work on the onboarding process, and make things less messy and chaotic. You'll give them like a
Yes.
framework.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of what I do is I kind of take people from chaos to control. They're lacking control, just generally speaking. They're lacking a foundation that if without it, they can't scale. So that foundation really allows them to better represent their products, tell their story, and also prepare themselves to onboard the clients and service them, right? They don't even have sometimes service models in place. So, what if you have an escalation? What if something is broken? How do they contact support? Those are all the types of things. So they're focused on the product and the build, which is great. They've got to build, but there are these supporting structures and architecture that if it is not properly built in the beginning, they will fail.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's not necessarily a product problem or a growth problem, but you have a big systems problem, which
Right.
causes a huge bottleneck. You can't onboard clients. You have no tech support, and now you're just kind of like pissing people off, right?
Exactly, right? So, and that's one of the questions that I ask them is, okay, so if something isn't working for a client, what do they do? Well, we have to figure that out. No, you can't go to market if you haven't figured that out, right? Because at this point, how are how are you going to retain customers if you can't even service a customer? So it's great that you have a product and you've differentiated yourself, but now you have to create the supporting structure that allows for a frictionless experience for the people that are onboarding and, by the way, paying for this service.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the scaling piece. What I've kind of seen a little bit of shift with some of the companies I work with. They're not necessarily hiring people anymore. They're installing systems. How do you see that? How do you see that evolving?
I just led a workshop on when you're ready for traction, like when you're ready to move from traction to scale. Right? So some of that is founder readiness, some of that is operational readiness, etc. And so for me, one of the things that I always ask them is how is it that you're going to move into this next space? Do you have capacity in order to support the growth that is coming? Right? So a lot of people are leveraging automation to do what I consider to be more transactional work using AI, which, by the way, I'm a proponent of if it's used properly. A lot of people are unwilling to hire, right? So I always recommend during the initial phases of scale, depending on whether or not you've achieved funding or secured funding or grants, or you have enough revenue to support it. I don't believe in doing W-2s in the first year of business unless it's absolutely required. So, because most startups, if they're going to make it by year two, they're in a really good position and they know what their revenue is and they understand how they're scaling and what do the iterations of scale look like for them. So, I always say no W-2s unless it's absolutely required and it's only, but know what you want them to do. Clearly define the roles and responsibilities for them. Don't just hire a virtual assistant if you have no idea what the virtual assistant is going to do. Do you need another developer? Can you do that offshore? Can you do that offshore to get what you need to get while you're still continuing to build and scale in those first 2 years? And at what point, what revenue targets do we have to hit in order to be in a position to hire full-time staff, right? Because sometimes you just need people part-time.
Right. I'm a big opponent of contract to hire, 1099. Hey, if it works out, we'll bring you on full time. But to your point, you need to spell out exactly the roles and responsibilities and set expectations and goals.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You brought up, you know, AI and AI automation. Where do you think this automation is going?
Yeah, I think AI has a place. So I say this a lot, right? You automate transactional and you humanize strategic. So where you have the ability to automate work through AI, whether that's operational task, marketing task, even sales strategy, several other areas where you could focus on that, then do it. If it makes sense for your business, and then make sure that you're freeing up that capacity so that you are focusing on your growth strategy. Because a lot of companies are just in it, right? So most of the founders that I meet, they're working in the business, not on the business. So converting them from this place where they go from operator to owner is where I spend a fair amount of my time. And it's hard to pull people out, right, of their business and say, let that
Right.
go. Let's automate that and manage the output and the outcomes that you're trying to achieve versus you trying to do that.
All right, so you say operator to owner. What's for the people that don't understand out there that are be watching this episode? What is the difference between operator and owner? Because I know in my past life I've been stuck in the full operator mode for many years, and it wasn't until later I realized, God, if I can just go back 5 years and get out of that operator mode, the company would have been so much more successful.
Yeah, well, that's a really great question. So, and I think we're all guilty of this when we launch a business, right? We become ingrained in the build of the business, and part of the build becomes operational by default. We can't help it, becomes repeatable. And so we get caught up doing those things because it's what we've always done. And we think we're building the business, even if we see some as we see incremental shifts in revenue or we have new clients come in or whatever that looks like. So what is happening is you are inside your business. And if you're inside your business and you're dealing with repeatable tasks and you're dealing with that daily flow, you are not thinking about how do I grow and how do I scale. You're assuming that growth and scale is occurring because you see some incremental shifts. But are you really growing and scaling the business at a strategic level? No, you are not.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that is a really difficult differentiation for founders to make. But it is that shift that takes your business to the next level.
Yeah, it's an interesting trait a person has to have to be able to do that. And sometimes they need to bring people on like you to advise them and almost be blunt like you are at times to tell them that like, hey, you're focusing on the wrong things. You're
Right.
stuck down in the weeds. We got to think a little higher.
Right. Right. Or they're like, I have all these ideas and I'll get to them. I'll get to them. I'll get to them. And I'm like, that's the difference. Right. Owners get to them. They take those ideas and those become part of the vision of their scale. But if you're constantly stuck in the chaos and you're stuck in the day to day, then you're absolutely not going to ever get to those ideas. They're going to stay on some list in a book or on a tablet or on a note or wherever it is, and they're not going to come to fruition. But those ideas are what takes your business to those next stages of growth. And so helping them to free up that time and create that capacity is really what I probably what I enjoy doing most.
This is always a fun question when I have these discussions.
Mm.
If you were to give an owner an invisible employee, let's say for a year, what type of employee would that be?
Oh, boy, I've never had that question asked to me before. So if I could give an owner an invisible employee that could kind of manage, it would be somebody that was on the back end of their business, literally moving things forward. So dealing with the things that take the most of their time. So it's one of the things I always ask founders, and I actually have this questionnaire that I send to them, and I say it's like a series of like 15 questions, but those 15 questions gauge for me where their time is consumed. My goal would be to have somebody who could take those tasks, pull those back, free that capacity, but then I'd want to see what the founder did with it because not all founders are meant to be owners.
That's a good point. That's true.
So
I know some of them. True.
right. So not all founders are meant to be owners, and those people, those are difficult discussions, right? That I've had with founders that I have said to them, I'm not sure you're cut out to be an owner. I think you are cut out to be somebody who works within your business. You love your product, you love the development of the product, you love maybe it's clients, maybe it's sales, maybe it's whatever it is, but you don't love running a company. And that's okay too. Doesn't mean you can't bring your company to the next stages, but you need somebody to come in and fill a void that you cannot fill.
Yes. Like, what do you see something that founders believe that's completely wrong?
I meet founders who believe they were born to be CEOs, and I can tell you right away they're not born to be CEOs. It's a different mentality. It's a different level of capacity of it's a different level of leadership and responsibility, but it's communication, it's capacity for and competencies that some people just don't have. Doesn't mean they don't have skills in other areas, and they most certainly do. But sometimes you have to help people understand where do they capitalize on the strengths that they do have and where do they fill those voids in their business. And so then the next level of conversation becomes how important is this business to you, right? How much do you believe in this product? How much do you believe in this business? Is this generational shifts, breaks? And if it is, then you are going to look to bring somebody else in to run a company that will take your vision, your dream to that next level because it's not going to be you. And I will tell them it's sustainable, but it's not scalable with them.
Every company should bring in a Laurie Brewer. Let's talk
No,
some.
not always. Doesn't always work that way. Sometimes they don't like me. Some people don't like those conversations. They're tough conversations. And to be honest with you, I don't like to have them. They're less than probably 5% of the conversations that I have. If I see a founder who I feel like I can pull them out, right, of that, and they have the right skills and they have the right competencies, then let's focus on how do I develop that individual while we build your business. Then I'll do that. But I've walked into companies where it's a team of 4 people, and the person that has been designated to be in charge is the wrong person. But there's somebody on that team that I see, and I'm like, that's the person. So how do we have a conversation that says,
Right.
look, right? Like you have a great team. You just have the wrong leader at the helm. This person over here is the person that will take you to that next level. I think as a collective group, you have to make a decision whether or not that person is if you're ready to release and let this person pull in, right? And come on. I always, hey, I'm gonna pull you off the bench and I'm gonna put you in as a starter. So are you ready to be a starter? And if the person's ready, great. But now the other person has to agree to concede the role.
Would you say that's one of the biggest reasons that some of the companies you work with just never scale?
Yes. Yep. Yep. And
Let me
sometimes Sometimes it's based on investment level. Like some of them have, here's what happens. Let's say it's you and I, you have an idea and I'm like, that's a great idea. Let's do it. Right. And you assume because it's your idea that you should be in charge. You're going to take us to where we need to go. But we get 3 months into this, and I quickly come to the realization that maybe you don't have the communication skills. You're not going to play well in the investor arena, right? You're not somebody who's going to be able to lead a team of 5, 10, 20, 200 people, right? It's not your strength. I'm not saying that's you. I'm just saying this is hypothetical
Right.
for
Right.
everybody
Right.
for everybody listening. It's hypothetical.
I can do it
Um,
all. Everybody knows.
Right, exactly. But at that point, this happens a lot. And then it's because we're friends and we have a connection. The other person who's looking at you going, what is happening? We're never going to get anywhere if he keeps doing this, is not stepping in and they're not saying anything because they don't want to compromise the relationship and they don't want to compromise any progress that has occurred at that point. So sometimes just because you have the strongest personality doesn't mean you're the strongest candidate for that role.
Find like some of the best leaders, you touched on it earlier, are the ones that really listen.
Mm.
The ones that really listen and can hear everything and take the time to hear them out and think about it are the ones that are going to be the most successful.
They are going to be successful. And I'll tell you what else is really important that people discount more than they should. This is one of the reasons why I don't miss corporate. In corporate, it's about performance, right?
Yeah,
And
KPIs, performance, hitting your goals,
that's
getting your
right.
bonus.
That's right. And don't get me wrong. In business, it's always about outcomes, right? For me, what are the outcomes that we're trying to achieve and how are we measuring against those? But people matter. In corporate, people don't always matter. So they say they matter, but they don't. And so I believe that when you lead people, it isn't about where you're going, it's about how you get them where they want to go. And so my job is always not just about my own success, but more so my success is building based upon the success of my team. So if you are authentically engaged with your team and they trust you, they believe that you are there for their best interest because you are, and that's not something you can fake. You can say the words, always say the words, but people know when you genuinely care about them. And those leaders are the ones that have the most unbelievably high performing teams because they want to work for that person. They want to be part of that team. They feel valued. They feel as if the person that is leading them, one, understands where they're going, two, communicates where they're going, and three, wants them to come along. And so I think that leaders have to listen, but leaders also have to act with integrity and they have to act with the best interests of the people that work for them. And I also think that sometimes means you have individuals who are in the wrong seat. Right? They have great skills and competencies, but somehow ended up in a role that doesn't align for them. And so helping them get into a place that makes the most sense is really just about allowing them to achieve their career goals and sometimes redirecting them in their career because maybe where they thought they were going to go isn't the place for them to be. And then you can redefine that and redirect.
That makes a lot of sense. Let me ask you this. What do you think is the biggest lie in entrepreneurship right now?
What is the biggest lie in entrepreneurship? That the harder you work, the more successful you'll be. I don't believe that's true. Yes, there's hustle. Yes, there's grit, but it's not about working 80 hours a week. It's about working smart, always working smart and leveraging the tools and resources that you have available. So this is not one person kind of a world, right? We all need support and we all need to leverage the tools that are available to us, but be smart about it. I see everybody, like we talked about AI briefly. One of the things that I'm seeing is there's so many new AI tools that these business owners are like, oh, this will make my life easier. This will make my life easier. So they're pulling all these tools in, right? And now they have like 12 different subscriptions that they're paying for. They're probably using three max most of the time. The other ones are just like nice to haves that they'll fail over to. There's no integration. There's no automation. So we all fall prey to marketing, right? And you see
Right.
right? We all fall prey to it. So you see this pitch, this marketing pitch, and you're like, yes, I will be completely honest when I tell you, I love AI, big proponent of it, but not every tool fits your business. So when you want to purchase a new tool or you want to use a subscription, understand what you want to accomplish with that tool. Once you know what you want to accomplish with that tool, then you can choose the tool that's going to give you the most value. Don't just listen to what everybody on TikTok says. Like, don't get me wrong, I love TikTok, huge fan, best algorithm ever
Sure.
created, right? And it's a great place to build your business. But do your own research. Don't naturally assume that some strange person that hits your FYP knows what your business needs. Only you know what your business needs.
I see a lot of companies just out there buying subscriptions and stuff, but they don't really even know how to implement it or automate it.
Right.
They don't really know what problem they want to solve or what automations they want to fix to like get back their time. And I always tell people, hey, talk to people that have some experience, and discuss your problems or your wants with them and have them come back with how they can fix it.
Right.
Get a second set of eyes. Always get a second set of eyes, someone that's smarter than you, that's been there done that. With AI and with now remote working and everything, where do you see successful founders in the next 5 years? What does that look like?
Um,
We get so much thrown at us, so much information. It's like we can only take in so much, right?
yeah, it's very true.
And what skills are gonna matter the most?
Oh, I think you and I both know we're all going to have to leverage AI. How we leverage it will matter. You can't ignore it. So if you're planning to ignore it, you won't be successful. But you do need to be smart. You need to use it ethically and you need to integrate and automate the systems. So to me, AI has the benefit of amplifying businesses. Also, what we talked about earlier, which is freeing up capacity, which is really important. So I think companies need to use AI ethically, but smart. That's key. Integration and automation are going to be critical. Evaluating their customer base, understanding their target ICP. As their product changes, is their ideal customer profile still the same? Right? Let's say you have an expansion of services or you expand product features. Does that shift your ICP? So there's this evaluation criteria that should happen around that. Does it shift your differentiation? Right? So if your ICP changes, my guess is your differentiators are changing as well. So making sure that they're thinking about that smart, setting up themselves financially smart in the beginning, tracking finances, knowing their run rates, understanding where to invest and how to invest, and where is their money going. Because a lot of times I go in and I'll do like a 6-month audit of their financials, and I'm like, where's all this money you're spending? Right. So just making sure that they're managing those things. I always firmly believe in hiring legitimate external bookkeeper or accounting services, not somebody that you don't know that you can't physically go to.
It makes sense. I always tell people your financial reporting is the foundation of your company, whether you're making money or losing money.
That's right.
You have
That's right.
you have to
So
have full visibility into every line item.
right. And the legalities of it, right? So making sure that your company structure makes sense, your incorporation structure makes sense, your tax structures make sense. And I think just there are some basic business frameworks that a lot of these companies aren't thinking about. They're like, oh, I have an LLC, I'm ready to go. I'm like, well, that's fantastic. But here are all these other things that you need to consider.
Yeah, there's a trickle down effect people don't think about.
Right. And then they all of a sudden start making money and there's no structures, no process or systems in place to effectively manage that coming in and managing the revenue and cost. And so I think there's just some financial basics that sometimes become a problem. Sometimes I see founders they have this bank account that they're using and it's not structured properly. It's not structured for business the way their business is modeled. Just basic things. So the business framework is really concerning to me. So it's almost like this entrepreneur in a box kind of a thing that needs to happen. I also think that they're evaluating, right? Companies are not always looking at growth in a way that allows them to build beyond sustainability. So a lot of times I meet with people and I'm like, sure, your business is absolutely sustainable in its current state, but it is not scalable. So when they come to me and say, I want to retire in 2 years, I'm like, well, that's absolutely not going to happen, right? Not the way you're running your business today. So I think there's a difference between sustainably running a business and generating revenue, and then there is scale. And understanding the difference between the two is really important. The way they launch new products is critical. I mean, look at how competitive marketing is today. We're almost someone asked me about the stock market the other day and AI and blah, blah, blah. AI is becoming so overwhelming at this point, the value is going to dilute, right? In certain areas. So I think anybody can create a program. Anybody can create a SaaS platform at this point. So I can do it. And I'm not by any means somebody who should be building software, for the record. That is not my strength. But I think people just need to really, I think that the beginning stages of a business are probably the most critical stages. How you build at that point determines the platform by which you scale, right? So you don't want to build on chaos. You want to build on clarity.
So setting up the company structure, having
The
the right
systems,
bank accounts, the systems,
architecture, the
financials, everything's
service
that's
models, like creating this frictionless environment. Because at the end of the day, you and I both know one bad experience in this environment with social media, not good.
pinned in the corner and blown up.
That's right. Not good.
That's some really good stuff, Lori. I really that's good stuff for the people out there. I mean, it's practical. They should be able to understand that.
Well, I always tell people, everyone's like, oh, startups, that's so much fun. It must be so exciting. I'm like, everybody thinks it's all like unicorns and rainbows over here in the startup world. It's hard work. It's hard work for the founders. It's people that have like, some people are just like laying everything down and saying, I'm going to go make this happen. And as a consultant, sometimes you have to come in and be like, this isn't happening. It's not going to happen until you do these things. Um, so I think there's just a tremendous amount of work goes into startups. And yes, it's exciting. And yes, it's innovative. And there are some fantastically talented people out there that are capable, but they may not ever, it's like Hollywood. They might be great at what they do, but they're not going to get their break.
Right. Yeah, they move out there and they were good over here when they get there, and it's just they're a small fish in a big pond.
Exactly. And so, especially everybody's like, oh, I'm going to launch an AI startup. Okay, great. What are you going to do? Every day I get this. I have an AI startup. Okay, what do you do? Oh, okay. Well, that's the seventh one this week. So, like, yeah, I love startup. And I think, but every once in a while, you do get a unicorn project that comes through, this product that rolls in, and you're like, oh, yeah, this is the one. And so, but not everybody has those. And not everybody hits the market at the right time. This is the other thing. You could have a great product, but the market either A is not ready for it, or B, you didn't introduce it to to the right people. So I feel like I love startup and I like the energy, but sometimes they don't all make it.
No, I think most of them fail,
Yeah,
right?
they do. Yeah, they do.
Most of them do fail,
Yep.
not
They have
for
a
lack of
failure to
trying.
launch. That's what I call it. Failure to launch. They just don't get there.
I truly believe like what you're saying is it's about the people, it's about listening, it's about having the right systems, obviously the corporate structure, financial, legal, that all goes into it, right?
Right.
And a lot of people don't really think about that. They think about just their product and how do we
Because that's
sell
what
it?
they know, right? But that's what they know. Like, how many software engineers go into the startup ecosystem with, like, I got a great product, but they don't know anything about go to market. They don't know anything about business. They don't know how to build it, how to manage it. And so I think you're absolutely right. And sometimes you just have to find the right people to get you there. And it's just not always easy. But I will say this. I say this a lot. Entrepreneurship is not for the weak. It is hard and it is uphill and it is um it's cyclical for some people, right? Especially when you're in consulting, professional services and doing different things like that. It's a grind. And it's sometimes I meet people and they're like, I'm at my end. I give up. And I'm like, well, tell me why. And let's talk about what your product is, what you're offering. And then we can sit down. Like if they have a great product, I'm like, this is a highly viable product. Let's figure it out. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? You might be right. Maybe try something else. This isn't
Right.
the right. This isn't it. And they don't always love that. But I don't want someone to waste their time continuing to drive and build something that probably isn't highly marketable. Just because they love it and they're passionate about it doesn't mean there's a market need.
Right. No, that makes sense. And it's good sometimes having an outside person come in and give them some honest and transparent feedback. That's
Yes.
important. Let's close with this. I always like this question. What are some of the best characteristics of an entrepreneur?
Resilience for certain, communication at various levels, passion for the product. They got to believe in it. Being able to accept feedback constructively, and accept that feedback, not only just hear it, but absorb and convert that into action. And thought leadership. Like thought leadership is really important when you are growing and scaling. It's not enough to tell people what to do. People need to understand why they're doing it. And if they don't understand the why, then the what won't matter.
Good stuff, Laurie. That's good. I'm enjoying my time. Hey, for people that want more information about you,
Mhm.
where could they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me under Laurie Brewer or Glow Up Consulting, or you can find my website, which is glowupconsult.com, and all my contact information is available there.
This will be on Spotify and YouTube, so
Great.
we'll get it out there. Laurie, this was powerful. It's been a great show, man. You're so easy to talk to. It's a lot of fun. I appreciate you coming on, and
Thank
I look forward to staying in touch with you
Yeah.
and becoming good friends.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, I love the chance to connect and meet with new people, especially people that are just have such diverse backgrounds. We come from different places, but we're trying to achieve the same things in a like maybe not the same industry, but just different, the same values. So things that motivate us.
I appreciate you, and I'll talk with you soon.
All right. Thank you.